TOA, Fit Body Forever, and Fit Body Bootcamp communities. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Robert Linkul with TrainingTheOlderAdult.com and your Director of Education here with Fit Body Bootcamp. All right, team, we're going to talk about this new randomized comparative effectiveness trial that explored two low-dose LD resistance training RT modalities on quality of life. This was a functional capacity and strength and health in untrained community dwelling older adults. All right, so what does all that mean? It means that these are community dwelling older adults. They are 65 and older. They are individuals that do not need assistance, but they are all living in a community together, and they have a controlled environment weight room where they can all go in and work out together. They have a leg press in here, which is the entire study is performed on one exercise, and that's it, the leg press. We're going to look at a couple of different leg presses here in just a moment and give you my opinion on if this is something that you would like to incorporate into your regular practice based on the results you're about to see. Which leg press would be one of the better ones for you to pick out there if you have the option, of course. And then a little bit into like the simplicity of one of the analogies I give to people are not analogies, but like just one of the storylines I show to people is you got 168 hours in a week, and I'm asking you to go do 20 minutes 3 times a week. So that's 1 hour, 1 hour of your life, right? Dedicated to going in and just moving some weights around. And people go, is that really going to be enough? I got 167 other hours to sleep and do whatever I want. Is 3 times a week for 20 minutes, is that really going to do anything for me, Rob? And the answer is yes. And let me show you how effective something so simple can be, okay? So here's the study. This study investigated low volume. Like the whole idea was what's the bare minimum that we could do and still get good results, okay? Once a week. That's all they did was once a week. It was like every Monday they came in and they did this. And the rest of the week, just living their lives, okay? Once a week, resistance training that would have some type of meaningful impact on their quality of life. So how are they going to assess that and measure that? We'll talk about that in a minute. This was in untrained individuals. So these folks do not lift weights. And they don't really do anything that's terribly active enough to where you'd say like they're well conditioned or well resistance trained, like they're just sitting around their community dwelling, right? Not really doing anything outside of that. And the study looked at 31 of these folks, mean age 66, and they had a body, mean body mass index of 27, so a little bit over body fat, if I had to have an opinion on that. In your BMI charts, etc., the 27's high. Participants were randomized into 4 groups performing the leg press exercise using either their maximal intent, defined as the purposeful intention to move as fast as possible regardless of the resistance, or into the controlled groups that did 3 sets of 5 or 5 sets of 5 with 60% of their 1 rep max once a week for 6 weeks, okay? And they did a pre-test, a halfway through test, 3 weeks in, and a post-test. And what they found in there, well, let's get into the evals. The evaluation used a balance test, which I believe was a 30-second single leg balance test, each leg. They did a 6-minute walk test, how much distance you can cover in 6 minutes. Timed up and go, which you're seated, you stand up, you walk out 3 meters, okay, 10-ish feet for you Americans, us Americans. 3 meters. We're in the world of lifting and throwing, everything's meters and kilos, so that's why I jokingly say that. But 10 feet, okay, right around there, 9.9 feet. Out, and then you come back and you sit down, okay, and they time it, ready, go, and they stand up, walk around, come back, boom. And if you're under 12 and a half seconds, you're not a fall risk, quote unquote. But really, it should be around like 7 to 8 seconds is your goal. And you want to do 1 turning left and 1 turning right. Then the 30-second sit-to-stand test, which is one of my absolute favorites and tells us so much. If you pair that with grip strength, you get a really good idea of who somebody is physically and how they can, kind of perform in their daily life. So those were the tests that they did. And they measured all those at the beginning, trained for 3 weeks, measured again, trained for 3 more weeks, measured again. And what they found was the first 3 weeks had the best outcome and produced the best results compared to the latter 3 weeks, which showed early response. Neuromuscularly, your body is a unwatered plant. And all of a sudden you start watering it. It goes, it flourishes, right? It starts to put, and as you continue to water it, it still does good, but not as good as it did in the very beginning when it didn't have any water, and then all of a sudden it got nourished. So the first 3 weeks, the body really responds. And then things kind of don't taper off, but they're not as productive as the first 3 weeks are. And that is very common. Most studies will find that as well, especially in untrained individuals or severely deconditioned individuals. The initial training stimulus produces really big results. And you'll see somebody go from like a leg press 1 rep of 80 pounds, and 3 weeks later they're doing 160, and you're like, wow, they literally doubled their weight. Well, if I train 3 more weeks, will I do 320? No. Their 160 probably would go to like 185 or 200. And then a couple, 3-4 weeks later, it's like 200, 225. And maybe someday they would do 300, and you're like, well, okay. So things really they're still improving, but things start to kind of get a little bit less of these huge jumps as we go there, okay? All right. So the training protocols were this, and I'm gonna go here to, this is from an email from my guys. Let me make sure I get this right, because I absolutely love these guys. It's and I don't want to mess up. The Institute of Clinical, where are we? Come here quickly. Institute of Clinical Excellence, okay, ICE, Institute of Clinical Excellence. And this is the MMOA, which is the, this is my buddy over here. Where is their MMOA? Modern Management of the Older Adult. There we go. From Institute of Clinical Excellence. Excellent. Okay, I will show that in just a second. So this is from their email they send out every week, and they are a great resource for sharing stuff. So we get a chance. I'll show you their website here in just a minute. But they showed the breakdown here of the maximum intent, meaning they're trying to move the weight as quick as they can. It's 60% of their 1 rep maximum. So everybody gets tested for a 1 rep max, which is usually almost always really, really nerve-wracking to do with untrained people. But you just kind of gradually keep increasing the weight, and they get to a point where they're like, that's as much as I can do. And you're like, okay, is it really though? Like, if you really wanted to push it and if you didn't have to worry about breaking these people, could they do a little bit more? Like, it's never really truly a 1 rep max, but you kind of get to a point where you're like, I can't break all the people I'm doing a study with. So you get to a certain weight and you're like, it's getting a little risky here. Let's just call this the 1 rep max. Great. That's our starting point. Now we're going to do 60% of that. And so let's say somebody did 100 pounds. So we're going to do 60 pounds now. And we're going to do 3 sets of 5, but every time they move the weight away, they're going to move it with maximum intention as hard as they can every single time. They do 5, they rest. They do 5 more, they rest. They do 5 more, they're done. That's the whole workout, gang. That's it. Like, literally, that's all they did. The next group did 2 more sets of 5. And then the other 2 groups, the control groups, did 3 sets of 5 or 5 sets of 5 with just like 2 seconds out, 2 seconds back. Not about intent of maximal speed. It was just normal everyday everything, okay? And here's what they found. Even training just 1 time a week with 3 sets of 5 at 60% led to solid gains in strength, balance, function, and quality of life. Explosive reps, when they're moving it really fast, had a slight edge in improving function, while slower controlled reps were slightly better at building more strength. So if you were trying to improve how quickly you can move, the more explosive, faster contractions were a little more beneficial. But if you were trying to get a little stronger, the slower ones, which that all makes sense, okay? Larger improvements were seen in the first 3 weeks compared to the later 3 weeks. And this speaks to the importance of loading early and often, which can prevent some common negative health outcomes in older adults. Now imagine this. Imagine if they did this 3 days a week. What if they came in Monday, Wednesday, Friday and did their 3 sets of 5? If 3 5s or 5 5s all produce good results, but whichever one you see a client as, more of a fall risk or more of a frail risk, meaning they need to get stronger, right? Either one, and they're very, very similar. It's not like you could look at somebody and be like, they got plenty of muscle mass, but they're a big fall risk. I got to work on their strength and their balance their stability and their balance, versus this person super, super frail. I'm just worried about their bone density and their muscle mass. For an untrained individual over the age of 50, it all is super important. And no matter what it is, do something to get your body more dense and stronger and more dynamic and et cetera. The whole gamut, we want it all. But if you want to get a little bit more detailed, just a little bit further into the woods, can I make somebody a tiny bit more explosive so they're less of a fall risk, or can I make them a little bit stronger, build a little more muscle mass to them, et cetera, based on 2 extra sets, or based on how explosively I'm moving the weight, okay? I thought that was an extremely interesting result, is that it all worked. And we're talking like, I don't know, 5.5 minutes. Like, you do a set of 5, you rest, let's call it a minute. Let's say your 5 took you 12 to 15 seconds, and then you rest a minute. So let's just call it a minute 15 for every set. Let's give them 2 minutes of rest. So you got 2:15 for every set. So that's 6:45. That's what we got to do. 6 minutes and 45 seconds once a week. You should probably warm up a little bit just to make sure you don't hurt yourself. So let's maybe call 5 minutes if we really want to keep it minimum, right? 5-minute warm up, walking on the treadmill, whatever, okay? Like, this is not a huge amount of work that we're asking somebody to do, and it produced really good results, okay? Enough to where their body mass had some changes. They took their height, they did their balance test, they did their 6-minute walk test, their timed up and go, their sit to stand, right? They went through all this stuff. They did a maximal isometric contraction against a dynamometer to see what their maximal contraction strength was in their quads. And then they did their 1 rep max to continue to put weight on the sled until they got a certain amount of weight. And then they had a 36 questionnaire completed at home during the test, right, or during the experience. They had to do this questionnaire. How did you feel? Do you feel stronger or weaker? Do you feel more stable or less stable, et cetera? They go through that whole thing. And pretty astounding results here from just hardly doing anything. So imagine if they did the leg press 3 days a week, and they did 5 sets of 5 with that explosive component to it, right? So now we're looking at like 15 minutes, maybe 20 with a warm-up. That's still really minimal. That's what we talked about at the very beginning of the video, is could I give you 20 minutes a week, right? There's my hour of work. Out of 168, you've got 167 to go do whatever you want to do. So to say that you don't have time or you don't have the ability or whatnot, everybody can find 20 minutes in their life to go and do something like this once a week. And I think that really goes a long ways to, well, what if I did 3 days a week for 20 minutes? What if I added a chest press and a seated row to my leg press? So now I've got upper pushes and pulls, and the leg press covers, if you do it right, pretty much covers every muscle group in the lower body, right? So you can really get away with just doing those 3 lifts, and that would be completely solid, okay? Here's our guys over at ICE, the Institute of Clinical Excellence. I wanted to show everybody this. These guys are great. They do really good work. They've got all kinds of different courses that they teach, which is fantastic. But really, the education that they put out and their email, the newsletter they put out every week, totally worth taking a look at. All right, here's some of the leg presses. Let me zoom in here, make sure everybody can see these okay. So these are some of the leg presses out in the world of today that you could get into. If you're in like a selectorized type of a gym, it's probably going to be something more like this guy, right? That you're going to see, you're going to sit in and you're going to, kind of you'll be upright and you're going to kind of push away from you. Some gyms you're going to get into, they're going to have a leg press like so. Look at this heels off on the pad there. You're going to put plates on there. You're going to load it, and it's going to be a little sled that goes up and down. Okay, these ones are getting a little more dynamic, where you've got individual weights for each foot. So he could do like a simulated run, right, left, right, left, right, left, like that. They are independent. The best ones, in my opinion, these are a little bit more old school, a little smaller footprint, some of these ones here. And then you get into stuff that's like hack squats and whatnot. So the best one, in my opinion, is the hoist leg press. And the hoist leg press, the reason that I like it so much is when you are seated, okay, like you see the gentleman here, he's seated and he's all compact in there, nice and tight. But if you took this picture, okay, let me see if I can do this kind of live with you here. All right, if we take this picture, I just did a screen grab of it, and let me bring it over here really fast. We'll do this live together. Okay, instead of screen grabs, I found this. So when he is seated with his feet, where'd he go? All the way flexed, right? Like he was at the very beginning here. When you're in this position, if you were to turn this 90 degrees to the left, like he's in a pretty decent deep squat position. Okay, that's great in the deep flexed, triple flex position of a leg press. Now, as he would push away, most leg presses, the upper body component of it, it doesn't move. It just stays. And so what you get is a lot of knee extension and you get a little bit of hip extension. But it doesn't really simulate like you would get in a squat, where you get to work through extension in this position. But you'll notice here, as he's pushed away now, his body is straightened and his upper body has tilted back a little bit. And so they take you back as far, the hoist leg press tilts back as far as it can without going flat to where you would then like slide off the back of it, right? And that's pretty cool. Like they're trying to, they see the value in having you get closer in and both parts of the leg press moving away from each other. It's trying to simulate an actual squat and or the extended hip and knee you would get in a deadlift. They're trying to simulate that as best as they can, which I think is, as far as a machine goes, look at all the different colors that comes in, right? As far as a machine goes, awesome, super cool. Usually at the end of these, they have a video of it in action, but all I'm seeing are just different colors. They're taking us through every single color that they have ever offered of this. Wow, this is quite the options that you have. So this leg press is, again, probably my favorite one that's out there. But when it comes down to the sled loaded ones, I don't know. I guess I don't have enough experience to say this is the best one out there. I've never been a huge fan of the ones that kind of recline and you're in the tilted back deep leg press like this one. You're in this like deep leg press position, and I just feel like it compacts you, pushes you together. I prefer, if you're gonna leg press, to do one like so. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of, if we're gonna leg press, which would be ideal, what would be the one that we would want to shoot for, I guess. I think you'd get more out of, and I would love to see a study that did this, just 3 sets of the exact same thing, 3 sets of 5 or 5 sets of 5 picking up a kettlebell. And just have kettlebells that go all the way up to, 104 pounds or whatever, 50 kilos, all the way up to 110 pounds. And let's see how people improve. That's super functional. They can stand over the top of it. You just pull straight up. The most functional action that you can do, in my opinion, other than general locomotion, just walking about, is pulling something up off the floor. Like we do pickups, hinges, proper hinges like that. We do them all day long. Right? Every time you pick up your shoes or you put something in it's simple little things like a hinge, grab my car keys. That's still a hinge. Though it's not heavy, it's a break at the hip. And so I think that would probably be one of the best things that we could test is how can I just do this with a kettlebell and just see how people do? If everybody had a kettlebell that was like decently challenging for them, and every day they picked it up 3 sets of 5 and then went about their day, how great a function would that do? Like if you're getting ready to go to work and you're okay, or golf, you're retired, right? You're over 55, 60 years old, whatever our average retirement age is now. I think it's more like 66 or something like that. If by the door you were getting ready to leave, there's a kettlebell sitting there, and you get ready to go, and you're like, okay, I gotta get out to the door 4 minutes early because I've got to do my 3 sets of 5 deadlifts. And you get out here and you put down your stuff, your golf bag, whatever you're going to do, and you pick it up 5 times and you rest about 40 seconds, and you pick it up 5 times and you rest 40 seconds, you pick it up 5 times and you grab your golf bag and off you go. If you did that, if you did 3 sets of 5 every time you left for the day, whatever you were about to do, what kind of effects would that have? Well, as we saw here, once a week, doing this on the leg press would produce some pretty amazing results for you. Now, and that's though the leg press is functional, you're inside a fixed machine, right? This would be more of a life applicable skill of picking up grocery bags or a tool bag or whatever it might be, right? That you would have. Like that would be a little bit more of a functional capacity test, in my opinion, if we're going to use that word, functional, that is more replicable to real life than the leg press. Totally understand the study. I find the value in it. And this is something that we can go, oh, how could we take this one step further? Like, do that. Go get a kettlebell that's heavy for you. And just before you leave your house every day, whatever you're going to do, just do 3 sets of 5 and then go about your day every single day. How cool would that be? I think massive life changes could occur for you. And just the simple thing of a little bit extra bone density, a little more muscle mass, but most important is you would build ground reactive stress through your body of pulling something heavy and back down that will help you stay on your feet. That would 100% help you reduce your fall risk. And that is probably the most beneficial and the most important thing that you could do for yourself as you age, because falls lead to catastrophic drops in quality of life. Catastrophic. Almost every story of someone's demise, someone's end of life, starts with, well, everything was pretty good until he fell, until she fell. And then there's this slow decline, or super, super quick, like 3 days later, they were gone. It happens that quickly, or that's the part that you can trace it all back to. Like everything was going okay for my dad until he fell and he broke his hip in Florida. And that was just the start. And it took 5 years, but that was the start of everything trending downhill. Kidneys started to fail. I'm not saying it was a result of the fall. I'm just saying it all kind of came about when we all went, dad's not crushing it like normal. Normal dad, as best we could kind of call him, not in shape, right? Dad was kind of going, fell and broke his hip. And then we started to see all these little health issues and his lack of abilities and yada, yada, yada. Fell and broke his other hip. He got a knee replacement. He had a near-death experience with an intestinal component where they had to cut like 10 to 12 feet of his large intestine out. He had a bag for 6 months. What a mess all that was. Doctor called Amanda and my brother Chris and I and said, say goodbye to your dad. He's on speakerphone. He's not going to survive this surgery. We're going to try our best, but it's probably not going to happen. And we say goodbye to him on the phone while driving to the hospital, right, to try to get to see him. He survives that. That moment right there, most doctors would be like, that was kind of a miracle. He made it through that. Lives, 4 more years from that. And a broken hip. He had 2 pins and 2 screws in both of his hips holding them together, had a knee replacement, had dialysis 3 times a week for kidney failure, was anemic, was diabetic, had some neuropathy in his feet. All this went from 330 pounds to about 180 when he finally passed. Had 2.5, if not more, heart attacks that we don't even know about, right? But it all went back to he tripped on a hose, water in the plants around the pool, and he broke his hip. And you can trace it back to that moment where things started to go downhill from there. All right, team. If anything we learned from this, a bare minimal effort of about 5 minutes once a week could have some very good impact on your quality of life, your balance, your stability, your strength. Imagine if you did a full, I'm going to go to the gym 2 to 3 times a week and get 30 to 40 minutes in, which if you're over 65, you must, if you're any age, you must make time for that. But especially if you're older, It should be the big priority in your week. You're like, what am I doing this week? When you're putting your schedule together, the schedule should be, here are my 3 workouts and whatever else. Those should be the priority, in my opinion, okay? Over family time, over everything else. Seriously, Rob? Yeah, you can't be here for your family if you're not strong enough to move your body around. So yes, be selfish in this instance of, I need to do my 3 workouts every week of 30 minutes or whatever they are, so I can then be there for everybody else. Because, and I hear it from moms and dads and everybody across the board. Well, I got to take care of everybody else. You can't if you're not strong, if you're not stable, if you're not capable. You can't take care of other people. You have to take care of yourself first to be able to do the other tasks of your daily demand, of your life, of everything else that you've set out as goals or priorities. You can't do that if you're not strong enough or capable enough to get yourself to those instances. So yes, that should be the priority every week when you're making your schedule. Here are my 3 workouts and whatever else you got to do that week. You have to prioritize those. It's Christmas. It's Easter. It's New Year's. It's the 4th of July. You're on vacation. You're in Europe. You're in Iceland. You're in Canada. You're in Mexico. I don't care. Whatever it is you're doing, it's, here are my 3 workouts and everything else. You can't take time off. You cannot take a 2-week break because sarcopenia kicks in 3 to 5 days. Bare minimum, 5 days. If you're just sitting around doing nothing, drinking Mai Tais, hanging by the beach, by week's end, you've drastically reduced your ability to maintain balance and stability and strength. You've reduced your bone density. You've reduced your cognition, your stimulus, your balance, your coordination. We've seen all this. Multiple studies showcase all this. It's not my opinion. I'm just regurgitating all this out to all of you in a little bald-headed, bearded rant. You can't take time off. You can't miss workouts. You have to do these every week. This is life. Life is taxes and workouts and everything else, okay? Being a little dramatic, but you get what I'm saying. This is super important. It must be a priority for all ages. Everywhere, but especially if you're over 50. Especially if you're over 50. Do yourself a favor and start resistance training 2 to 3 times a week for 30 minutes, at least starting at age 50, and you will drastically improve your quality of life in your life expectancy, and you will add, based on statistics, 6 to 7 years to your life if you start doing that. It's a big deal. Because at 78, I lost my dad. Could I have had him until he was 84? I think we could have, and I would have taken that. All right, there's my rant. I hope you enjoyed today. Any comments, questions, anything else, please let me know in the comment section down below. If not, continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. Hit the bell and share this information out with anybody in your life, your loved ones you feel like could benefit from it. I appreciate you all. I hope you're doing great, and until next time, we'll see you then.